Welcome, Houston, to Chai Time on 103.5 Hum FM. We're here on this hot Monday morning, right? But we can't start without talking about the game yesterday because the FIFA fever is going on. So, I didn't see it, but my kids were excited. My husband was excited. How was your experience?
I was very sad.
Oh, yes.
Well, it was a really good game. It was a very strategically, tactically, very good game.
Yes.
But man, am I sad alongside all our friends who were rooting for Mexico.
Yes.
But we're never lost. We never truly lose.
Yeah.
We never truly lose.
That's true. Yes. And the fever continues.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And now we have to support everyone else so that England still loses. So sorry to my England fans. I'm actually not. Y'all, we need revenge.
Right.
A little bit. Retribution.
In the coming days. We'll
exactly.
see what happens.
We're hoping. We can only hope.
All right. So we have our dear friend Misbah Lakhani, Daya Outreach Coordinator, with us today. And we have a very interesting topic. We discussed a bit about Disability Pride Month last month, but last year. But for those learning about it for the first time, what is Disability Pride Month and why is it not Disability Awareness Month?
Yeah, so last year we had the whole topic be about disability and talking about how disability shows up in various ways. It's not always visible, right? And I think oftentimes if every month is an awareness month, right? Awareness month.
Yeah.
But the kind of thought behind Disability Pride Month instead was that trying to say that just because there is something that we incurred during our lifetime or we were born with or something or the other, that doesn't necessarily mean that now it's a bad thing, right? Most of the people, especially after COVID, have become disabled, right? We experienced a global pandemic together.
Right.
And so if most of the people in this world are now becoming disabled or are disabled, then why should we shame that, right? And our lives are just as important. And I'm saying we a lot because I have disabilities too, like scoliosis, right? So you can't typically see from just my very perfect posture that I don't have, that my spine is all twisted and turned, right?
Oh, okay.
And so there's no need to be shameful about it or make people aware that you need to support us.
Yeah.
It's we exist everywhere. We are prideful of the fact that we see the world differently. We see the ways in which the world kind of needs to change and kind of make us feel comfortable instead of people we making other people comfortable, you know?
Yes.
So it's kind of that switch, and also having pride in the fact that we have bodies that work, right? And even if they work differently than what is quote unquote normal, they still work, they're still lovely, they still deserve all of the lovely things that every human deserves.
Oh, wow. I just love that concept. I didn't even think about it that way. So today's topic is about intersection of disability and age. Why was this an important intersection to name, and how do they intersect in ways that people wouldn't think about?
So Elder Abuse Awareness Month, was last month, and we kind of didn't have the capacity to touch on it, right? But elder abuse is something that we experience, that's something that we see in our line of work, and also the intersecting ways of how disability functions in that abuse, or making somebody disabled through abuse, taking advantage of the fact that an elderly person is disabled already and using that as a form to further abuse somebody. So that's an intersection. Elder abuse can also be elderly neglect, and so neglect just going into abuse and kind of blurring that line. And most of the time when it comes to care, and if somebody is not getting the medication that they need, and withholding medication, right? So that is both neglect and abuse, right? So those are some of the ways that disability and elder abuse kind of intersect. And also I think because we live in such multi-generational families, I think a lot of the times our elderly population also kind of gets neglected emotionally, right? Where they're just not seen as the same person that they used to be because of because of some disability, whether it be Alzheimer's or whether it be some neural capacity that is deficient, right? So there's so many different examples, and they vary. Like, I'm just naming some that I can think of off the top of my head, but there's like so many interesting and scary sometimes ways that abuse and disability can kind of coincide, that we wanted to make sure that people knew about kind of both of them, and that both of them are important. And because I always talk, whenever I'm here, I feel like I always talk about intersections, and that's
but that's good because you have like a new way to think, right? So you bring those topics to us,
and it's one of those things. Why I love doing that is precisely that, because I feel like people know about so many things, right? But I think taking the time to be like, okay, so we know this thing exists, and we know this thing's, how many ways can they meet in the middle? Because we always are so much more complex as humans, right? Than we give ourselves credit for, even, where we're very multi-dimensional human beings. So like all of our dimensions are kind of clashing, and they're all intersecting in ways. So how are these concepts then not just concepts, but also things in our real lives that intersect?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a domestic violence agency, how often do you encounter disability within survivors?
So we, quite a lot.
Really?
So, and there's multiple ways, right? So again, like I mentioned.
So see, when I think of disability, I think of someone who can't walk, or who has something broken. That's all that comes to my mind, and I'm sure that's not.
That's literally that is a factor that is one of the ways disability shows up, right? But we have cancer survivors who are disabled because of cancer treatment or because of the disease itself.
So define
disability. There's multiple now definitions of what counts, and so I'm very scared now to be put on the spot. But the most general way is that something. There is a factor, either physical, mental, emotional, whatever it is, that stops you from functioning at the level that you used to, or that a normal average human is supposed to.
Okay.
So for me, it's like, if you have asthma, right? You have you're not allowed to serve in the military because you won't be able to breathe as well as somebody who doesn't. So asthma in that case is a disability. Or it causes you some distress that is very, very chronic. So for my scoliosis, right, my spine technically is like twisted and turned, right? So if technically, because it's not it's not visible, people might be like, what do you mean that you're disabled, right? But like, if you take into account that like my legs now are like two different like lengths, just because my hips are two different lengths, right? So for an average quote unquote person, that legs need to be the same height, right? And also like all of the pain then I incur because like my joints hurt. And like it's hard to walk. And like, you know how some people say that when it rains or something, like your bones start to ache. So I actually feel that.
Really?
And so I know it's not something people are lying about, because like my joints do hurt, my bones do hurt, everything aches when there's like rain in the air, right? So all of that stuff, a person who didn't have scoliosis, so all that. So that is my best example.
No, that explains it very clearly.
Great.
Thank you. So what are some ways disability continues to show up as one ages?
So in the same way where it's like, okay, it's easiest to use me as an example because I don't want to use other people as examples, and I know myself the best. But so like as one ages, right, bones get more brittle. We know this. We know that like your capacity to do things declines, and your energy levels are not the same. And so if somebody already has something that they've been dealing with for the rest of their lives, and your capacity becomes even lower as you age, like the diminished capacity sometimes also makes somebody much more vulnerable, right? And the need for more care. We know that elderly people have this desire and sometimes need for like extreme care, and that's because of that diminished capacity. So the disability kind of just aggravates itself generally over time. And then once you do get older and you have all of these conditions that may just incur as a factor of being older, right? Like my dad now is on blood pressure medication that he never used to be on, right? So that also just happens as a condition of us being as old as we are. Like this is the oldest we could ever live ever in our entirety of being human, right? So a lot of the disabilities that happen is genuinely because we just haven't lived this old, and we didn't know how to live this old. So our cells are also learning how to take care of ourselves for longer, right? So that's also why, where it's like we're all getting blood pressure medication. All of the stress of living has caught up to us finally. And like the stress of just living is now more and more increased, and your cells are also tired. Everyone is tired. And so because everyone has been tired for so much longer, they kind of give up. And I don't disagree with them. Like let them do what they want. So that's how disability shows up. And again, with the need of this increased care, it's really about the support system around this person who is elderly, like or disabled, or both. And what does that care system look like, and how can that care system really be manipulated, controlled? All of that is where that kind of intersection shows up.
Okay. So what specific barriers might survivors who are disabled and elderly face?
Yeah. So one of them I kind of mentioned is like withholding medication, right? So somebody I know literally was in an abusive situation. She was very, very old, and she had breast cancer, and her son literally did not get her to the hospital in time, and so she passed away. And so that literally was a thing that happened, and that is a barrier for survivors because she was actively being abused, and it cost her her life, right? Just because he would not get her to the hospital. So that's the most extreme case that one can experience is fatality, is death. And so withholding care is a very, very big one. And it's also the regular ways that people experience abuse, and the average quote unquote ways that people experience abuse, where it's physical, mental, social, and even the isolation would increase also. Like if isolation is a very common part of abuse tactics, right? And so if somebody is disabled and like your example suggested, where they are unable to walk and need an ambulatory advice of some kind, and they're not provided one, what happens then, right? And the only access that they have is their abusive person who they're interacting with. So all of the common ways, or the average ways that we talk about when it comes to abuse, kind of mold that around somebody's disability. It's kind of like a double whammy. Where both the disability is being neglected and there's abuse happening.
So that is so sad, and especially for the elderly, because they can't. Because I'm thinking, I know one of my friends, her dad cannot get out of bed, and he has Alzheimer's, and they go above and beyond for him, And then there's someone who, like you said, so the son just he would abuse the mom, and then just didn't take it.
And it was not through it was mostly mental and emotional, right? So it was basically telling her to do stuff for him, you know how some mama's boys now become tyrants and don't know how to do anything. So he's asking his elderly mom to clean his shoes, and cook for him, and do this and that for him, still at the age of 40, right? And so he's abusing her through making her work, and she can't. She's literally surviving cancer. She has a neck brace on, all that. And so that's the abusive part already. And then the disability is making it completely worse. And then also withholding care then.
It's three things in one. Oh my God. What does healing then look like when disability shifts your reality of what people consider healed?
Yeah, so this is kind of my like PSA moment where I talk about like if like people think about have this image, right, of what healing might look like, of what somebody who has survived an abusive situation. Some people have like, there's a new job, a new apartment, like all of these things that people may desire. But, and however, what does that look like when somebody still cannot qualify for an apartment because of some diagnosis that they have that makes them like cognitively impaired, right? Or what does it look like when you would like to start a new job, but it's harder to find a new job, not only because you're restarting your life, but also because you have these disabilities that people need to accommodate. And maybe you still can't get a job because your disability prevents you from accessing care and accessing ways of income. So all of those things, it really kind of makes like, yes, we should want like new lives and healing for everyone, right? But when your disability is kind of neglected in those situations and isn't cared for, what does it then look like to think of healing? And I think that's where the disability pride portion kind of comes out, where it's like we've always been thinking about new and creative ways and always thinking about out-of-the-box solutions, right? And out-of-the-box ways to manage symptoms, to live life. And healing is also going to look different. And to embrace that also, right? So for, I don't know, for somebody who can't access and still has to be on disability income, right? Or cannot access ways of employment, it is getting to be able to walk freely or use an ambulatory device to get around freely, which you never used to be able to, right? So it could look so much different, and that it's still healing, and that people and to kind of like dispel that judgment of what does healing look like. Healing looks so much different for everyone. And if abuse can show up different for everyone, if domestic violence has no face, also then healing can look so much different for everyone as well.
Yeah, that is so true, because you don't realize you always like look for the happy ending.
Exactly.
Right? But that happy ending might not be there.
And I even challenge you to think about like, what does a happy ending even look like, right? So that's the thing where it's like, it's still a happy ending, it's for me, it just isn't the happy ending that anyone else expected around me, but I'm happy as heck.
Exactly. Wow. What are the ways that our community can show up and show support to our community members who are going through this?
So an easy way is always to support us. We are doing the work of dispelling myths, of helping people actually arrive at this moment of healing, of independence, of whatever that looks like for them. So supporting Daya, come to our events, listen to Chai Time, all of these things that really do change how you think. But in your friends and family, I think another thing I also talk about every single time without fail is community, and what does community look like, and how to show support for your community in person, in real life, with your friends and family, right? And so two things about it. So one thing I would say is, what kinds of conversations are you having with your community members already, right? Like with your friends and with your family. Have you ever thought about telling them or sharing anything around, dang, my back really hurts. Like, oh, I really had to go to the doctor for this, that, and the third. And if you are having these conversations with your friends and they are saying that, hey, yeah, I just got diagnosed with, for, again, my parents, like diabetes, right? So, I have this diagnosis now, this, that, and the third. And how you can physically and materially show up is really just making sure that whenever you go out, you go to places that accommodate somebody's diet.
That's true.
Make sure that everything that you're doing is like an access level that is accessible, right?
Yeah.
So, it would mean like what kinds of activities that you used to do that you can't do anymore, and what can we do to replace it and not just eliminate hanging out now, right? And so all of these ways that people are already doing this, right? People already do this where it's like, yeah, my mom got diagnosed with this, that, and the third, and now I don't have as much free time anymore. Okay, then go to your friend's mom's house and hang out with both of them, right?
Yes.
And there's so many creative ways that people can maintain friendship and maintain support and help out here and there, wash a dish or two, make a meal or two, right, for another person.
Yes.
And show up for them materially in order to make sure that they're being accommodated. And it's just easy community work. We do it because we're collectivists. We don't think about it as showing up sometimes. It's just something, it's the thing that you just do because you're here. And I like you and I love you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so continuing to do that is actually one of the best ways to support the people in your life, right?
Yes.
And also, I think the precursor to it is making sure that we do always ask. We do make sure we check in with people and make sure we know what's going on in the lives of the people that we love and care about.
Yeah.
So those two are typically the
show up and check up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm feeling that. I'm actually feeling that.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be continuing this conversation after the break. Welcome back to Chai Time on 103.5 Hum FM. We are in conversation with Misbah Lakhani, a Daya Outreach Coordinator. So, Misbah, what does the body continue to remember with age, disability, and lasting effects of abuse, right?
Yeah. So, to kind of add another element to all of this is being a survivor, continuing to live your life and go into elderly age when it comes to experiencing abuse and being disabled by that, right?
Okay.
So have you or the general audience ever read like the Body Keeps the Score or like heard about that book?
No, I've heard about it. I haven't read it.
So the whole premise of the book is about how trauma like is stored in the body, right? And people going through, and it kind of goes into the thing that we talked about last month. But anyways, we talk about how stuff like PTSD or physical abuse or experiencing trauma of any kind continues to like sit in our hips, right? Like, continues to sit in our bones. It like impacts us on a cellular physical level. And when you experience abuse, and so you're being impacted and being traumatized, right? And then if you also experience like physical abuse during that time and became disabled from that abuse, you are continually now a survivor and you are now disabled.
Yeah.
And so your body continues to remember until you have either dealt with it, worked with it, and sometimes even if you have accepted it, right?
Yeah.
Your body will have physical ramifications sometimes from it. And so that's the third kind of element of just like growing old as a survivor, growing old as a disabled person, and how to continually think about it in the way that, yes, I survived, and also this will never be something that goes away, and it will continue for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that aspect of it where abuse literally never leaves your body and you are always impacted by it.
And I was smiling because we had a show with one of our speakers, Mitali, and we spoke about how it is multi-generational, you know, and I had no idea that it can pass on from your great-grandmother, because she was talking about how they had to go through the wars and, you know, going through different countries. So all that stays on cellular level, like you said. And so imagine from generations then to now, your body like does keep a score until I don't know how you release it, that we didn't get to that part. But I mean, it's very interesting, right? Because we always are trying to find solutions, but like a lot of things can be stored in different organs, right? And then it affects that.
And so one of the stories about it is that I didn't actually know I had scoliosis, and like one day in college I was like extremely stressed and like my back essentially gave out, and I was like, I am 20 years old.
Oh wow.
My back should not be giving out. And so I went to the doctor, went to this, that, and the third, and they were just like, yeah, I don't know how we didn't catch this. Like, you know how, like, in elementary school and middle school, they, like, make you do the scoliosis test?
Yeah.
Passed all of them, didn't really know what was going on, but it was because my body was, like, literally correcting for the, like, scoliosis. And so, like, all of the parts of my body were correcting for it. And so they were growing literally in a way to support me the best that they knew how, but also every single thing was mismatched. But at the end, when this all happened, it was because I was so stressed that it, like, finally triggered it all. And one of my mentors, she was just like, yeah, this is so common in every single, like, post-colonial, like, person, and, like, talking about colonialism when it comes to that, and like, this is your post-colonial body, diabetes for us, bad backs, blood pressure, all of that is just like your we call it, like, POCO, like, post-colonial body, and it's like your body still remembers all of that, and that's the impact of even colonialism in your body. So that was a tangent, but
No, because it was a very, like, something eye-opener, like, for me, because I've never heard it before. So, but, I mean, people are talking about it now,
and we're talking about, like, violence when it, like, it's so easy to think about violence in, like, a grand scale, right, of war. But also, I think I think we then forget that, like, war also happens with people, like, people interacting with people, and that is how it happens. And when you do that in a very micro level, what do you get? Abuse. And so I think people don't kind of have that mismatch of, like, they can understand it on one level but not another. And so if you kind of microscope control and power, what is more controlling than war? And the same concept
happens
between two people, abusive situations and domestic violence.
Wow, I like that one.
And so that's how we continue to remember.
Yes. So as South Asian community, like, what can we do when it's not something that happens in our home, right? Because we're always under that impression, or we're trying to be in denial forever. Because, oh no, this can't happen to us. Like, you know, our house is perfect, or our family is perfect, or let's just keep it under the wraps. Because what are people going to say? It's always like, what is society going to say, you know? So
it's such a hard thing for me to kind of I've been, like, thinking about this, right, for about 2 years now of how to approach the question, it does not happen in our homes, because there's no, like, if you tell somebody, like, it is happening in your homes, that's very unfair. You don't know this person, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And also, if you say that it's happening everywhere, then it's also just saying, like, oh, South Asian people are so violent, and like, violence is happening everywhere, right? And so how do we approach it in a way that is loving and caring, but also very direct and forward? My approach is always thinking about the instance of, like, the fear or the desire to be like, no, it's not happening, and, like, where that fear is coming from. Let's start there. And let's start about why we have that fear in the first place of it doesn't happen in our homes, it doesn't happen in our, like, perfect little family. Why do we wish to be perfect, for one? And a lot of our tendencies for being toxic can come from that fear, right? Because we're trying to react in ways that are kind of impulsive, that are something that we learned or something that we picked up that weren't nice to ourselves. And that's why we have to be perfect. We don't need to be perfect. We're all human. And then also, if that fear is coming from the fact of denial of some kind, maybe, I know this is a very hard thing to do, but if we can be brave and think about where that desire for denial is coming, typically there's 2 to 3 ways. One is because you don't want to admit the fact that there is something wrong. And you know it in your heart and soul already, but you just don't have the courage to say it right now, or don't have the capacity, and things will radically change if you accept the fact that something is wrong. I can't help there. You just have to be brave and know that people will be there for you, and that there's always help. And telling that to yourself is the best way to kind of address that fear head on. Two is that denial is coming from the fact that you don't want to admit that you're witnessing it from somebody else, that you do know that somebody else around you really needs that help, but you don't know how to approach it, you don't know what's going on. You can be brave for them or with them and talk about what does it mean that something is uncomfortable. And again, you have to accept something is radically wrong in somebody else's life that you care about, and you don't know how to have that hard conversation. Again, we're here. Community is here. Your people are around you that can help you bridge that conversation also. We do that all the time. We have people who come who call for a relative and then patch them in, right?
Okay.
And so somebody is there for you all the time.
Yeah.
And then another reason why is kind of societal, right? Like, I always also love to talk about society at a larger scale, and this need for and this denial of nothing is wrong is because we have been made to like want the American dream, right? And be perfect in order to get all of these things, and we have tried so hard and trying to make sure that we are supposed to have all of the things that we need and all of the things that are good for a thriving life.
Yeah.
And everyone is working very, very hard. There's no need to be perfect because we're all trying, and we all see that effort instead of that like deliverable of being perfect that we will never achieve.
Right.
And I think this one is a harder thing to approach, where it's like, okay, we have to be perfect because if we aren't perfect, something will go wrong. Something always goes wrong.
Yeah,
Something is always wrong.
Yeah.
If it's not your car, it's your dental work. If it's not your dental work, it's your doctor. If it's not your doctor, something broke around the house. If it's not, then the water bill is too high.
Yeah.
Like, it's always something or another, right?
Yeah.
And so if we recognize that the need to be perfect is also taking so much of our energy, and so are all of the things that actually need to take care. Drop the need to be perfect, and you will have so much energy to attack all of the other things that you actually need to take care of.
Yeah.
And ask for help. It'll make it easier to ask for help from people.
Yeah.
I ask for help all the time.
Yeah.
If I don't want to lift something, I'm asking somebody.
Right?
Right?
But I think it also comes with, I don't know, some people just like to be in control, right?
Right.
Mentally. They just want to control everything.
Great segue.
Yeah.
Because guess what we talk about when we talk about abuse, right? And where the need for, not the need, or just like the core of abuse comes from is control.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think one thing that is important for people to remember is that controlling behavior is not that amazing or that great.
Yeah.
We can only control the things that we can control.
Yeah.
We do not have to control everything, and that impulse to control is also the same way that abuse gets normalized in our society so often too.
Yeah.
And so again, if you want to show up and you want to show out
Yeah.
for people in your life, also it starts internally, right?
Yeah.
And even being mindful of who you're trying to control, even if it's yourself and it's out of your bounds,
Yeah.
even if it's other people. And actually, again, I can recommend therapy. I can recommend so many things, or even talking to people. It doesn't have to be therapy, right? But the need to control, that's got to go. There's no if, and, or buts about it, because it's making the same way that you're trying to control everything. It's the same reason why abuse is so normalized. It's the same way people don't recognize that something is abusive, because they have normalized all of these ways that people control one another, right? Or want to control one another and themselves. And who is that helping?
Yeah.
Who is that helping at the end of the day? Nobody.
Yeah, because it's putting, like, not just in abuse case, but if you're trying to control like everything, I mean, that's just putting more pressure on yourself and pulling you down instead of lifting you up, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, definitely. But what are different kinds of abuse?
Yeah, so there are many. I would say people always know about physical, right? People know about sexual abuse, and people know about, now it's getting more and more common, mental abuse or social or psychological abuse, right?
Yes.
And so all of these ways, all of these forms of abuse show up, but we specifically in South Asian communities have like ways that are abusive tactics show up, aka I started talking about transnational abandonment a lot due to the people that have taught me about this, right?
Yeah.
Where people from like somebody's home country is moving to another country and they're leaving their spouse or loved one, not loved one, but abusive partner or something is leaving the other person in the new country and going back home.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So that has something that we've witnessed, or a third country entirely, like on a stopover, or cases like that have happened as well.
But is it with elderly that they do that, or with family?
I mean, with family, with anyone.
Oh
yeah,
my
with
God,
literally
that
anyone.
is heartbreaking.
And it could be the other way around, where it's like you just think you're going home for a trip that you take every year or so, or every 2 years, or what have you, and you're getting left in that country, and the abusive partner is going back to the new country. So there are ways that have showed up, especially for migrant communities and people who aren't from the U.S., that this is showing up for. So that's one way that abuse can show up. There's also spiritual that people don't think about often. So that would mean using your religion or your religious text against you in some way in order to control you. So the Bible says this, that, and the third. Now, therefore, you are not allowed to do X, Y, and Z. And there is a difference, and I always have to specify this. There is a difference between wanting to support and be in line with a religion versus being told that because this is in your religion, it's not actually anywhere in the religion, but being told that this is in your religion, so you have to do exactly what I say.
Two different things.
And especially when people talk about Islam, right, there's so many rights for women, and instead the Quran is being used in order to deflate people's egos and women's egos and women's rights, but the Quran has so many protections for women in the text itself. So that's one example, right? So that's spiritual. There's also forced marriages that we do know very well in our community about, but I also like to make the distinction between an arranged marriage and a forced marriage. And arranged marriages, my family, my mom and dad were arranged, and they are besties, and they've been together for years, and they love each other, and it's really cute. So arranged marriages do exist. They are completely okay and culturally acceptable, and also when consent of that marriage is revoked at any point. So you didn't want to marry this person, you didn't want to marry this person at this time, and you didn't want to and you just didn't want to get married, right? All of those three things, if any of these three things happen, you're being forced to getting married.
Got it.
And that's not okay.
Yeah.
So that is a forced marriage. So those are ways that abuse can show up. And common signs also for abuse are like isolation, right? Withholding care, not giving you basic necessities, and the increased shame, making you feel like you're doing everything wrong when you're just living your life. There are so many ways that abuse shows up. Sometimes I also talk about the fact that how do you feel? Do you feel okay? Do you feel good? Do you feel like you are happy? And that's in a romantic situation or even in a family situation, right? Like, does your family support you the ways that they need to? Are they giving you all of the basic things to thrive in your life? And if they're not, where are we in the situation of being toxic to being abusive, or just being not great communicators, right? Only you would know where that divide kind of lies.
Right. Oh, wow. Just different kind, right? Like we spoke about, I mean, the physical abuse, the mental is something we speak about, but we learned about so many new ones today, right?
If they're making you feel bad, that is not good. That is the easiest way to say it. If they're making you feel bad, that's not
like
great.
Manipulative, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So what is new with Daya, and what can we expect in the future?
So there's a bunch of cool things that we are planning. Most of all, excuse me, we are so excited to be hosting Alka Joshi, our keynote speaker at our gala.
Okay.
So she is helping us host book club this summer. So get your reading glasses, get your books out. We are reading this summer. We are reading, and so 6 Days of Bombay is one of her newest novels, and Alka Joshi is. We're reading it this month, and basically at the end of the month, you can come hang out with us virtually and with Alka, and we can discuss the book together. You can ask her any of questions you have of her books, and her most famous novel that I got introduced to and I started reading her from was The Henna Artist. So if people know The Henna Artist, same author, and she's so brilliant. She's so amazing, and we're very excited to even host her as our keynote speaker at our gala too.
Cool.
And so this is kind of like a little fun surprise outreach event that we're doing before the actual big day. And and so come hang out with us if you want to.
Right,
come
that
hang
is
out.
cool.
And it's going to kind of lead. So we're in our 30th year, right? So Daya is turning 30 this year. Turned 30, I think, in March officially.
Okay.
We turned 30, and so we're doing all of these fun little 30th year celebrations. We have new swag, even like we have some new merch.
Okay.
So if you ever come out to any of our bless you. If you ever come out to any of the events that we're at, you will have some new swag that I can provide. I can provide if you want a new sticker that I created, if you want some pens, if you want.
Wow, you were in charge of them, I see.
Yes, I just designed them. That was it.
Cool.
But they look cute, so I'm very proud of them. So you should stick them on everything. Anyways, so all that to say that we have our 30th year happening, and so our 30th year gala is also happening September 18th.
Yes.
And we're having like essentially a dance party too that day, and Oka is going to be there alive in the flesh. And so she's our keynote speaker. We're going to have lots of fun, lots of dancing. We're going to just be having fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's time for fun.
Right? Yeah.
And it's
Celebrate
also
the 30 years.
exactly.
Yeah, all
I'm
the
like
survivors you'll have helped.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
yeah. And we will have a client speaker there as well. And we want to also emphasize that, like, healing is fun.
Yeah.
Healing is good for the body.
Yeah.
And also, very, very cheekily, my birthday is the day before. So it's my dance party. So it's my birthday party, actually. So all the Virgos out there, get your tickets so we can all celebrate. That's what I think.
Oh, that's cool. It's going to be fun because the last one we went to was a lot of fun.
Yay.
So September 18th, keep that date in mind.
Yes, it's at the Sugarland Marriott. So all my Sugarland people, we also expect you to be there and not at that concert that is happening the same day.
Oh, is it?
Yes. I'm not even going to say what concert because I don't want people to know. But we're going to be way more fun. We're going to be way more exciting. You obviously want to hang out with me and all of my cool people at Daya. So, yeah, come through.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Misbah, for being here. And this was a very enlightening conversation for me, and I'm sure for our listeners out there too. And thank you to our listeners for always being there and supporting us. And we'll see you next Monday, same time, same place. Bye-bye.